Welcome into the Simmons Scoop with Chad Simmons. Today is Tuesday, September 16th. I'm your host, Josh Newberg, and we got recruiting to talk about today. I'm excited to get Director of Recruiting here at Rivals, Chad Simmons, on the show. We're going to break it all down, but first, do me a favor, hit subscribe to the Rivals Recruits channel. This is the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube. You should be subscribed. All right. Let's bring in Chad Simmons. So much action last week. Let's start in Knoxville. Now that the dust has settled on that Tennessee-Georgia game, it was an overtime thriller. Obviously, the Dogs come out on top late in that one. But what do you think the game, maybe the atmosphere, did for Tennessee recruiting overall?
It only helped, Josh. Obviously they do a great job, building relationships and getting connected with the recruits and the people in their circle and kind of building that trust early when they're a target. And, look, wins and losses, we always say they don't make a huge impact on that decision, especially now with NIL involved. There's so many other factors, but the atmosphere, the environment, the fight in the team, how the team played, how the coaches coach. Yes, they fell at the end in overtime. They would get up. Georgia would battle back. I mean, it was a great SEC football game against two SEC powers. So in the end, yes, the game didn't go Tennessee's way. But after everything, like you said, the dust settled, there's a lot more positive than negative coming out of the recruits about this atmosphere, the program, and the future there at Neyland Stadium.
Yeah, and I think Tennessee fans are starting to realize that. I mean, I know it was a heartbreaker, and that 48 hours after that game, it's hard to see any positives. But when you look back at it, and Joey Aguilar, that offense clicking, the pregame, especially from a recruiting perspective, the pregame festivities, heck, the action in the game, I mean, back and forth. I think there was 5 lead changes in the second half. It was absolutely nuts. So recruits had to be loving that one. And there's a couple storylines I want to hit when we talk about Tennessee's recruiting weekend. And one of them was the 3 defensive line flip targets on campus. USF defensive line commit Iverson Garcia, now decommitted from Virginia Tech, defensive lineman Andrew Rogers, and then Clemson defensive line commit Dre Quinn. Let's start with Rogers, since he is now decommitted after that Virginia Tech coaching change. It seems like he's trending to Tennessee, but do the Vols have some competition with Rogers?
Yeah, I think, Tennessee was trending even before the whole Brent Pry thing went down and the firing at Virginia Tech, over the weekend. And even when he committed, look, this one goes back into the summer. He reclassified, first of all, from 27 to 26. He committed to Virginia Tech in August. And even at that time, he already had an OV set to Tennessee for November. He was still planning to take visits to, Tennessee, South Carolina, some other schools. And now he's back on the market. Tennessee is the team to beat. They are the number 1 school on his list coming off this decommitment. He was back at Tennessee for the game. Obviously, he's teammates with Faison Brandon at Grimsley High School in North Carolina. So he knows a lot about the staff. He'll be back for an OV in November. And there's some competition. I mean, he's mentioned schools like North Carolina, Florida State, South Carolina, Georgia, to name a few. We think he'll take a few trips, in the coming weeks. But right now, Tennessee's in a good spot.
All right. Now, defensive line commit Iverson Garcia committed to USF. What's the buzz there? Are they just kicking the tires? I mean, obviously, with 3 flip targets on campus, Tennessee's looking for defensive linemen to add to this class. How much of a priority do you see Garcia?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a priority, maybe not as high as maybe an edge rush guy like a Rogers or a Dre Quinn that you mentioned before. But look, he's a local kid in Knoxville at Powell High School. He knows all about the program. He has a connection with Rodney Garner. He committed to USF. Tennessee has kept that seat warm, kept the communication, got him back on campus. I think they're still kind of filling each other out to kind of see, how bad does one want the other, and can they meet in the middle? And if they can meet in the middle and they both feel good about the situation, I think then a flip could happen. He is a take at Tennessee. Okay. I can say that with confidence as far as an interior defensive alignment, but how hard will Tennessee push? I think Garcia's waiting to see that. And then Tennessee waiting to see as kind of, how far will Garcia meet them in the middle per se to make this commitment happen or make this flip happen. So I think there's some interest there. Still trying to wait to see how serious things are between those two.
All right. What did you make of Clemson defensive lineman Drake Quinn showing up at Tennessee? Because we all know Clemson's rule with visits. If you're committed, you don't take visits. But when you're not winning as many games as the Tigers have been winning on the trail, guys start taking some visits. And I think that's what we saw with Drake Quinn. So where do you think his recruitment stands right now?
Yeah, I just think it shows he's not 100% locked in with Clemson. I think it's that simple. If there was some
But
buzz,
can you do that now? I mean, before you couldn't do that.
I can say this, talking to people, we're shooting this on Tuesday since Saturday when all this kind of broke and, Austin Price had it, Steve Wiltfong followed with that, and then I followed up with Drake Quinn. So we had a kind of a three-headed monster tracking what was going on. And I can say from Dre's side that he's still listening, he's still looking, still yet committed to Clemson, and Clemson is not dropping him as of right now for taking this visit. Yes, there is, a policy there under Dabo Swinney about look, if you're committed to Clemson, Clemson's committed to you. We don't bring in other guys behind your back. You don't take visits to other schools. Now, look, that line has been crossed, and there was some buzz, no pun intended, about Drake Quinn going to Georgia Tech this past weekend as a Georgia Tech recruit to watch Tech and Clemson play, in Atlanta, the local school. But instead, he pops up at Tennessee. Look, I can say this. Tennessee is pushing hard to flip Drake Quinn. How hard is Drake Quinn looking at Tennessee? We're still trying to put those pieces together. Right now, as we shoot this, he remains committed to Clemson. Clemson's okay with him. There was some communication before this trip. Clemson was aware he was going to visit somewhere this past weekend, so that was open on their side as well. But look, he's a target for Tennessee, maybe their top target now in these next few months, and see if they can flip him from Clemson. But right now, he's committed to Clemson, but definitely one to watch now moving forward.
Yeah, that's a really interesting storyline coming out of this one. One more thing we got to tackle when it comes to Tennessee recruiting, and that is the impressions that were made on 27 and 28 recruiting cycle prospects. We saw the number one overall player in the 2027 class, Kennedy Brown, number one linebacker and legacy recruit at Tennessee, Cooper Witten. We saw Josh Heupel giving plenty of attention to these guys. Even Peyton Manning was brought out to kind of rub shoulders with some of these top recruits. What is the latest buzz coming from some of these underclassmen when it comes to Tennessee?
Yeah, I mean, as big as Peyton Manning was, Candace Parker, I got a lot of guys were taking me pictures with Candace Parker, the female legend basketball player in the Pat Summit back in the day.
Yeah, they brought out all the stars.
He was the guest speaker and all that on game day. So those guys were loving Candace Parker too. But look, like I said before, everything is there's no negatives. Like everything, I've probably talked to at least 30 kids, top guys that were there in that 27 and 28 class. And it's positive, positive, positive. They all say tough loss, but yet great game, great performance. I saw the team battle, loved the crowd, loved the environment. All that was positive. With a guy like Kennedy Brown, you can never start too early, an elite player in Texas. And, he's been on the road with Clemson, going to Nebraska this weekend. You start, I think, with Texas and Texas A&M as the teams to beat early at Cooper Witten. Different story, also in Texas, but a Tennessee legacy. He was hanging out with Tennessee commits. He's close with that staff. Mm-hmm. The relationships are real. They're viewed probably as the team to beat for Cooper Witten. But I've talked to guys like in-state kids, Lawrence Brent, an elite player out of Memphis area, Keyshawn Bowman, another flip target, 2027 from Brentwood Academy, committed to Oregon, has visited Tennessee over 10 times now. An elite receiver in Virginia, Iverson Lewis, a major target for UT in 2027. The list goes on, and it just stays positive, positive, positive. You can never start recruiting these guys too early. Get them on campus as much as possible. Show them your culture, what you have to offer. And Tennessee checked a lot of boxes for a lot of top targets this past weekend.
Yeah, I think Tennessee fans are starting to come around, starting to see the silver lining. The season is far from over. This team could absolutely still see the playoffs. So Tennessee fans, talk to us. How are you feeling? How are you feeling about recruiting? How are you feeling about the team moving forward? Let us know in the comment section below. All right, let's bounce this over to a Georgia recruiting segment. The UGA Bulldogs head into the bye week, and then they're going to prep for Alabama. But let's slow it down a little bit because bye weeks mean recruiting. So let's circle back on 2026 real quick. Chad, is Georgia about done in the 2026 cycle? Any positions in need you think they should finish with here?
Yeah, I mean, I think a name. I was actually on the road, earlier this week down in Atlanta with one of the hottest 2026 guys in the country now, right here in Atlanta, is Jared Doughty. I mean, he
Yeah.
decommitted from Georgia State recently. Georgia's offered Bama, Auburn, Missouri, Florida State's talking to him. Multiple other schools are involved. And I think Georgia, without question, would take him in a heartbeat. They'll get him back for an OV later on this fall. I think, that position, of course, if Jackson Cantwell called and wanted to flip from mine, which is that's not likely happening. But I think O tackle is still, a position they would take one or add one. We can see, I mean, there's the senior evals are still going on. So there's things that, Georgia may find another kid like a Jared Doughty at another position that they like a lot somewhere else. But I think right now, O tackles that spot. Running back has been one, mentioned potentially if they find the right guy, they could take a second with Jay Lamar. But I think right now it's Jared Doughty. He's kind of that biggest name on that Georgia board for 26.
Yeah. That Georgia board for 26, we could see, I think if we see anything down the stretch, could be some flips. I mean, nearly everybody in the top 300 is committed. So if you're going to go out and get somebody for 26, it's probably going to be a flip. Let's talk about quarterback. We're seeing a lot of quarterbacks in the 2027 cycle come off the board. Now that Peyton Houston is committed, 5 of the top 10 are already committed in the 2027 cycle. Georgia, who are they focusing on at quarterback in that cycle?
Yeah, I still think they're trying to figure that out. I mean, they've only offered, from probably 5, 6, 7 guys. And, Houston was an offer. He committed to LSU. I mean, Peter Borg, an offer from up in Massachusetts, committed to Michigan earlier this year. They recently popped and offered Keegan Croucher, who we think is a, Penn State, Ole Miss, Oregon battle right now from up in that New York, Northeast area as well. It's going to be interesting. They offered Kareem Hewley, who committed to Clemson very early in the process back in June. So like you said, these guys are popping early in 2027 as far as quarterbacks go.
Yeah.
And the majority of guys that Georgia has offered, they have now committed to a school. The thing is, it's going to be tough, I think, for Georgia to reel one in because they're getting the number one quarterback in the country in Jared Curtis in 2026, who's kind of set up the way the depth chart goes to kind of come in right away and compete and be that guy, if it's not true freshman, second year on campus and all that. So it's going to be a tough sell for Georgia to follow up with Jared Curtis, but they're going to go out there and offer the guys. I think they could come back on a guy like Derek Baker here in Georgia. A kid out of Milton, came from St. Thomas Aquinas, more of that athlete guy, dual threat guy. So we'll kind of see where they go. Right now, the majority of the guys they've offered have already committed to another school.
Yeah, and while you were talking, I just started thinking, well, it's going to be a little tougher when you land the number one quarterback in the cycle to recruit behind him. I'm sure Georgia will, but that kind of makes sense. So let Jared Curtis get in here and cook a little bit. Let's talk about quarterbacks are coming off the board. So are the top players in Georgia when it comes to the 2027 cycle. 3 players in the top 10 are committed. So talking about those top players in the state, who's UGA in good shape with?
Yeah, I think you have to start with David Jacobs. Obviously, he's an elite rush edge guy, from Blessed Trinity High School in the state of Georgia. And, dad played at Georgia. He's been to Georgia, as a kid growing up to as a recruit, many times. He knows Kirby Smart extremely well. And I think you have to start there. I mean, look, he was at Notre Dame this past weekend. He's been around. He's going to take visits all over the country. He's at Oregon 2 weeks ago. So he's going to look around. I think you look at 2 DBs, Georgia's really going hard after right now, and that's elite safety Kamari Dorsey. He camped at Georgia over the summer. They loved him. They're talking to him every day right now. He has Georgia, if not at the top, one of the top schools on his list. A guy people don't talk about being down in Macon, kind of away from, all the exposure area of Atlanta or whatnot. But Deshaun Poole is a guy they're going as hard as anyone after right now. He's an elite safety from Howard High School. Again, camped at Georgia, worked with Dante Williams, T-Rob over the summer, a guy that can run. He's long. He's athletic. I think Georgia is in very good shape there. And then a guy I actually saw on the road on Monday who I think Georgia fans will hear more and more about throughout the fall is Justin Murphy. Plays quarterback at North Clayton High School. We talked about quarterbacks. He plays quarterback. He has around 20 offers, but it's kind of like, almost like a Cam Newton thing back in the day where all but 2 of his offers are to play other positions that are not quarterback. So does he end up at running back? Does he end up at safety? Georgia likes him at running back. Justin Murphy, around 5'11", 195 pounds, makes plays everywhere on Friday nights. I think Georgia's going to have to battle that about he wants to play quarterback, but he likes Georgia for what Georgia is. Can Georgia convince him that his best position is maybe running back, not quarterback? But look, Georgia's going to be involved. When you talk about the best players in Georgia, they're going to be in the mix. Of course, LaDainian Guyton, number 1 player in the state, committed to Texas Tech early in the process. He was at South Carolina this past weekend. He'll be at Georgia at some point this fall, maybe even next weekend for Alabama as well. So they're going to be involved with the top guys, but those are some. Keep an eye on if you're a Georgia fan.
Speaking of Georgia fans, it's the bye week, so you guys talk recruiting with us. Now is the time to start building your personal 2027 Georgia recruiting board. Tell us who is at the top of your board. Let us know, comment section below. All right, let's talk a little Miami Hurricane recruiting as the Canes got some momentum on the trail. They just beat USF. They are heading into another rivalry matchup against UF at home. Already beat Notre Dame at home. They beat USF at home. Now they got UF coming to town. How important is this game for recruiting if you're the Canes?
Oh, it's big. I mean, you don't get much better of a home schedule to kind of kick off the first month of the season and getting Notre Dame, focal point, prime center, night game on your own. Obviously, you got a great USF who got upset Florida, upset Boise State. Now you have to deal with a 4.5-hour weather delay to beat USF over the weekend. So that was tough for some people and fans and recruits. Then you get Florida, if you're Miami, you want to just beat them while they're down. I mean, Florida's struggling right now, coming off the LSU loss, being upset by USF. Napier's back on the hot seat again. Everything's rolling right for Miami right now with Mario Cristobal, and you can't fall asleep this weekend. Florida's going to come in. I think they'll be ready to play. Look, Lagway has to bounce back from 5 interceptions, but Miami just wants to kind of keep building that momentum. They handled Notre Dame on the big stage. They really took it to USF, who people were talking about. Could they compete, on that level? Not with Miami, at least not this past weekend. Miami wants to do the same thing. Florida show up on Saturday. Florida show up. Take it to the Gators in front of these top recruits and kind of continue to show that, look, Miami's coming back. We're close to those 80s, 90s, early 2000s teams. The atmosphere is coming back. The fan base is here. The support is here. To me, that's the biggest thing about this weekend is showcase your atmosphere, because that's been the question in the past. Do the fans show up? Do they stay away from Hard Rock? They've been back this year. Keep that momentum going in front of these top recruits.
Yeah, I think they're going to keep it going. We'll see, though. The Gators limping into Hard Rock Stadium. And Mario Cristobal, he likes to make a statement, so I'm sure he's going to have those guys ready to go. All right, last weekend there was an important quarterback on campus, Trent Seaborn. He's one of the top guys in that 27 cycle. Seems like this is Miami's guy right here. Do you see him trending towards the Canes?
I think they made up a little ground and made a good impression. I mean, I still feel like even though – look, South Carolina, I felt like going into that trip to Miami was the team that was trending for Seaborn. Yeah. He was just there in Columbia the week before. Now, look, while he was in Miami and Miami was throttling USF, South Carolina got taken to the shed by Vanderbilt, I think, 31-7 in Columbia. Over the weekend, does one game make that big of a difference? No. I think the relationships, at South Carolina are still a little bit stronger, a little bit deeper. He's been there more than Miami, but Miami did a great job. He met with the staff before the game. after the game, got a lot of questions answered. He loves OC Shannon Dawson. He likes obviously what he saw out of Cam Ward last year at Miami, and so far this year out of Carson Beck at the quarterback position, the versatility of the offensive scheme. I think this visit definitely helped Miami in this recruiting race for Trent Seaborn. Look, he's an Alabama kid. He's going to go to games at Alabama and Auburn. FSU wants to get him on campus as well. Oregon is very much in play. One thing I can say right now is he's definitely trending towards leaving the state of Alabama, and Miami is one of those top schools on his list.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens this weekend, see if another quarterback in the 27 cycle pops up at Miami this weekend. It could be a good indication of who's on their board. Now, speaking of this weekend, little look ahead to that Florida Gator matchup, and we'll be talking about this visit list all week long as players are going to be confirming. But is this one of these games where you're going to just try to load up on local prospects?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Mario Cristobal and that staff would admit it, but I think they're going to beg guys to come to this game. I mean, look, it's huge, man. It's an in-state matchup. You're rolling right now on the field. You are clearly one of the top programs, top teams in the country here in 2025. You got a great recruiting class coming together. You want to put that cherry on top with a couple flip targets. So I think Miami's going to do all they can to make those phone calls, to shoot those text messages, get on FaceTime, whatever it takes to get those top guys on campus. They're going to work to get Derek Cooper there, Calvin Russell there. They're going to work to get those guys in top 27s and 28s in their own backyard. I'm already hearing about, some of their top 27s out of the state confirmed going to be there. Man, elite running back Tyson Robinson from Mississippi going down to Coral Gables. He's an elite, electric playmaker at running back. 2 elite tight ends I've seen in recent weeks on the road. Jackson Dollar is an elite athlete, has basketball offers, football offers from North Carolina. He's been on the road everywhere from Tennessee, LSU. He'll be at Miami this weekend. Malik Howard taking his first visit to Miami. He lives right outside of Knoxville, Tennessee. He was at UT for the Georgia game. Miami's a top 5 school for him. He'll be at Miami for the first time this weekend. So I think as the week goes on, you'll see and hear a lot of names added to this list, both local, both national. But I think Miami wants to, like you said, not only make a statement on the field this weekend, but make a statement on the field in front of national targets inside Hard Rock Cafe Stadium.
Yeah. Now, have you heard about any top players from out of state? Because Mario Cristobal has done a really good job, whether it be recruiting California, landing the top defensive lineman in Chicago out of Illinois. They've recruited a bit nationally under Mario Cristobal. Are we expecting any out-of-state top players?
Yeah, I think that's the guys I kind of referenced there. I mean, you're going to see guys that they're trying to pull, in that 27, 28 class there. Again, it's early to say who we expect. We think it's going to grow exponentially, but the guys I've kind of confirmed so far with the Malik Howards and Jackson Dollars and Tyson Robinsons, you're going to see a guy like 2028, an elite player, Ashton Guerrero up at Jacksonville Bowl Schools coming down, been to Miami multiple times. He's a top 20 guy in 2028. So you're going to see guys in this list grow and grow and grow by the day. And I wouldn't be surprised to see guys travel nationally for this game if their schedule allows it to.
Yeah, and, it feels like it really lines up great for Miami. Like you said, the Canes have it all going for them on offense, on defense. Meanwhile, the Gators stumble into this one, just looking to get some traction on the season, looking to get DJ Lagway back on track, but Mario's going to try to make a statement. So Miami fans, talk to Chad and I. We want to hear your score predictions for this weekend's Miami Hurricane versus Florida Gator football game. Let us know, comment section below.